All right. Hello there, world. We're here to do another Google Hangout session, and we got some new persons on here today. I think it's our largest group, isn't it? 6 of us. So let's go ahead and introduce. This is Naiji Coach here.
Jailene.
We don't have Ademus with us today. He'll be back next week.
Back in spirit.
Yeah, should we change the screens? Let's do that.
Yep.
So Mitchell.
All right. This is Naiji Mitchell.
Go ahead. Click the screen. Infiniti.
Nijai Infiniti.
And Ben.
All right, Naiji Ben.
Glenn.
And Naiji Glenn.
Perfect.
Nice.
Okay. So we're basically going to keep doing these recording sessions, getting smoother and smoother. Next week we'll have 7 people on, which is the most we've had, and about the most I'm ready for with my HSP. So we're going to have Glenn on here now and kind of acclimate to that, but I'm sure it's going to be great. We've enjoyed having you on the forums. So look forward to having you on the Google as well.
All right.
Cool. So probably next thing to do is we'll have Jailene give a quick update on what's going on here, maybe mention the thing of the chiropractor.
Oh yeah.
Just to give a little teaser on that, and then we will get into the Mojo stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yesterday we did hit 4 coffee shops in our field trip adventures. We went to 2 new ones, which actually one of them we've been to before, but as part of like the new grooming, like we hadn't been there in a while, so it was technically new, and it had turned over. It had new employees and stuff. So we did an initial grooming there. We talked to, we asked some of the quality questions to one of the baristas, and so we started acclimating that
calibrating
place.
that.
Yeah, that we've gotten it pretty tight.
We feel more of that
on
on a vlog.
Yeah.
But just that's been going on. But then today you also had.
Yeah, so we went to 3 yesterday. So and one of them was the one that the regular one that we've been grooming today. I went to a healer therapist that I go to, and with it's cool because I've talked to him before about the project, but with the ambassador incantation, with the voicing that we've been doing, it's really coalesced like all of the ideas into like these really pithy conversational exchanges, and so I'm able to, you're able to articulate the ideas in a much more concise and direct way. And so he was like really excited. So he offered an opportunity, a potential opportunity, if there's still the space. He connected me to a lady that is putting together a festival. It's like the Love Long Beach Festival, and they want to set us up with if they have still some time, but set us up in a tent to do a demo. So like type deal, and so totally open to that. There's also another potential for doing seminars or teaching sort of demos in this holistic like cooperative space that they have here in Long Beach. So that's opening up too. So we're following up on that.
Awesome.
The angle with
well done.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Jailene.
It's the stuff like is I feel the truth. I know it's true, and so it's easy for me to talk about it, and speak about it enthusiastically. Yeah, and incantation helps immensely. Yeah, so.
You bet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So anyway,
and we went to a new coffee shop today again, and we.
Did some grooming there as well.
Yeah, we approached baristas, and they seemed like curious, interested. Again, like positive response.
We've been going with basically asking, can I ask you a quick question for a research project? And that seems to work really, really well, and they pretty much go for it. And then we kind of see how it goes from there. So more experimenting, but already after like about 2 weeks, we're getting some good ideas how to do it.
Yeah, and we're setting up a case study, so this will be like an ongoing thing so it'll be a case study for the coffee shops. And so we're going to read the mojos of so basically like get a
At some point we're going to drop it on them that, hey, we've been working you as a case and here's your results. So I'm still working on exactly how to make that transition, but it should be fun when it's done.
Right.
Well, I think I think
Funny.
And interesting thing because the thing about like a lot of these coffee shops is they're pretty sleepy, you know.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the baristas are often like, you know, bored. Like they want a conversation. They want something exciting and interesting to happen.
That makes sense.
Like this is just like a case study of
As
like
long as
all
you're
the
not too
coffee shops.
intrusive.
Yeah, as long as you're not too intrusive. And
We've been doing that.
Yeah.
So good times.
Very
All right.
nice.
So next we'll go ahead and get started with the class proper. Unless anyone has anything before we get started. Anybody? No?
I'm good.
All right, let's get to it then. We usually start with Infiniti. He's going to go through his experiences and reacting to the tutorial that I did of emoji reading, and then also last session. So everyone, what you can do is, Glenn is new to you, he'll go through a section, kind of saying his thoughts on it, and then we kind of pause there and let anyone else add their thoughts if they have any, and then we continue on like that. Sound good? All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Infiniti, take it away.
Yeah, and I have so much on there that I think I'm just going to read it, the way I did it last week. It's just the easiest way to get all the information there. I mean, I could summarize it, but it's probably better if I just read it at this point.
That's totally good. That's great.
Okay, cool. All right, let me find it. Okay, so we spoke. So Coach spoke last week about, and he gave his vlog about Elisa Diaz. So this week's Mojo Reading vlog was on Jinai Elisa Diaz. This one was fun because we see Jinai females considerably less within the 10K. However, Jinai certainly has a lot of impactful, direct forward G energy that is ready, willing, and able to come out as the need arises. And if I had to put a few words to describe Elisa Diaz, it would be direct, forward, and impactful. Most of her cues had a certain forward and direct manner to them that smacks of direct impact. From the manner in which her lips in a puckered position are essentially ready for impactful articulation in a manner that G alpha can really can embody throughout their presence, to her percussive juts as either of her chin towards the interviewer or towards her left in a very in a quick nigh head tilt to a very rhythmic side-to-side slinky-like sway, which is much quicker than the typical Chinese sway. To her direct eye contact and immediate nodding of acknowledgement to the interviewer. Pretty much everything that she does screams at the linear combination of the words objective and directive. In other words, pilot. Should I stop here, or should I continue on?
I think so. That's a good. You laid out some good work there. So let's go ahead. Just whoever wants to jump in. Jarlene, did you have anything?
I think from just from what I recall from her interviews, definitely it jumps out her directness, her forwardness, her comfortability with articulating and taking up social space.
Just you can also, that's perfect. You can go in the sample, and also since you're advanced reader, if you also have any insights on like pilot reading.
Yeah.
Also.
Okay. Just
G9 reading.
Yeah, as far as G9, definitely the fact that they're comfortable being out and just moving the dynamics of the encounter, just piloting. I mean, definitely see it in their jutting. She was comfortable with jutting. She was comfortable with the articulation. She was comfortable with taking up the space, and but also not. She didn't really monologue. She was very comfortable with.
That's a good
this
point.
thing. Yeah, that's different than.
Yes.
Saying that the pilots have easier dialogue abilities than hunters do, and because of that, they actually have an easier time letting other people come in and out. When a hunter, like an IG, gets going, sometimes we really need to get it all out in a monologue, or it's hard for us to get started again or complete the thought. So, although they have strong articulation, because of that, they're actually cooler with letting other people articulate. Hunters sometimes can be the worst that way when they get going. No, she was easy to give and take back and forth that way.
Yeah, it's all about like bringing out like the dynamic, and you're comfortable with like just moving things in real time and not.
For me, I find that I have that as well, being a hunter. But what I really notice the difference for me, I'm curious what you other IG think, is the ability to stop comfortably, like because you kind of go into like a hunter monologue thing. When you stop, it can be a bit abrupt if you're not allowed to land your plane when you want to. If you're like flying the plane, then you're going to land it at the end of your point, and someone interrupts in the middle, that will throw you off.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one is like how easily she could pause in her flight and let someone else talk, and then get back in the air again. Like hunters, we do actually have strong monologue, but getting it back up again takes some effort. So there is a little like once it gets started, let me get it done. But she could just pick it up and put down articulation like it was weightless. Yeah,
it's actually an amazing quality. Actually,
it is very.
Yeah.
I find it very impressive.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's really useful for the whole collective. I think just in keeping people like feeling like safe being out there.
It is more reassuring.
And having things run smoothly as far as interactions. Well, it can go the other way too, but
It's a combination.
They shepherd it properly.
Yeah, the shepherding kind of flex factor. It can come up. It's either more reassuring or more pushy.
Yeah, but it moves things along as they need to move along.
Totally. I'm curious if the
Right.
pushiness quality it can have is why there are so few Genii females. We're still investigating what that's all about.
Yeah, in pop culture.
In pop culture. The Naiji ladies kind of muscle in because they can do certain feats that force you to recognize them. But I also think that Naiji are able to mute the pushiness or hide it a little bit more, which is not saying the way it should be, but that less people are bothered by G pushiness, quote unquote, in a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're able to more. That's just an idea, but I'm not sure or not.
No.
I'm thinking that one area where you might see more Genii women, and I could be wrong about this, but I'm just proposing this, might be an area of like life coaching.
Oh, yeah.
And
Like
yeah,
a Tony Robbins, like a female Tony Robbins.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can see that.
Just people who really want to inspire you and really want to make a difference in your life. I would imagine life coaching would be heavy on that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I feel like I would see like a lot of director romantics in general in that. But yeah, I definitely think Shinai would have a thing for that.
Yeah, for sure. And the other place we have noted both the Durham females being highly represented is currently in female mixed martial arts. They're like the only two mojos,
Yeah,
just the two of them.
Really?
Yeah, and Genii. We have
Pioneers. They're pioneering it. For the
indeed,
women.
and
Yeah.
you're allowed to be pushy. Being pushy and swaggering is considered good to
Right.
have as a quality in that sport. So
Very true.
that is very interesting. Okay, did anyone else have anything about reading pilots or Genii? How about you, Mitchell? Do you notice anything particular about her related to what Mike said, or your own thoughts?
Well, I guess relating to some of the stuff that was earlier and to something last week, too, like you were talking about how objectives have more of this, well, I mean, of course, they have this more always out quality. That's one of the other reasons that I think they're comfortable with the dialoguing, too, because they're like, they're always engaged in it to an extent, whereas the hunters kind of need to disengage, and then that engagement is kind of...
Yeah, they can field stuff without having to do as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that they're always engaged.
Definitely. Some things I noted, one, because it's just, we didn't have a lot of Genii females, so I was like, I like drinking as much as I can when we get the chance to see them. One is that it's more pronounced, actually, in the Genii female than the Naiji female. The Naiji female also do it, but sometimes, I'll call it slinky sexy, is the way that the Naiji female do it sometimes will almost seem like they're doing a Nemojo. But a lot of them, it's clearly not. But with the Genii females, it's even more pronounced that it's not bobble.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like this more slinky kind of,
like panther-like.
like a big cat quality. And I noticed that with her, also Katherine Heigl, Charlize Theron, they have that way of moving. But interestingly enough, it's smoother than Naiji. That sort of undulating quality, it having the G over it, it's smoother, not quite as broken rhythmy as the Naiji.
And it has more V in it.
And it has more V. You're right. It has more V. Something that Infinity alluded to. That also, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And the less psi would make it less sharp than the Naiji.
Well, the Zai is going to smoothen it. And so they're going to have Zai high.
Zai will smoothen it as opposed to make it sharp lines when doing the
No, it's done properly. Having the Zai higher up, having it offside instead of polar will make it easier to smooth it. Infinite, you may know that too, is that the Jinai, she had her energy kind of thrusting forward the whole time. The Zai was kind of holding back there, but it definitely was not. It was like an afterthought most of the time.
It was way more forward than back.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, yeah, you would see the Zai, but Xi was in charge.
Yeah.
Big difference.
It seemed like she was Zai mainly after the Xi would do a bit of articulation run. She would kind of go back to Zai to make sure she hadn't gone too far off a reservation. Whereas the Nai, you'll see more of them Zaiing while in flight. While talking, you'll hear and see them Zaiing as they're doing it. Xi can do it as well, but that's more difficult for them.
Makes a lot of sense.
But the last thing before we move on is something that I don't want to go ahead and jump forward to your point. If this is going to be something to say later, but
Okay.
one is project. I think you may have said something about this. I forget. But the projection is. I noticed that the as opposed to even the Naiji, the hunter version of the Durham, the Jinai has several projection points, and it seemed like almost like touching home base as a counterpoint to the towers. You notice the towers we mentioned, they'll do these objective maneuvers, but while they're out here, they'll do various things like leaning back or touching something or have their hands inward while doing a yang maneuver. It's like they're always towering no matter what, even like doing a deep tower drift or check while out in double barrel. Okay, as a counterpoint to that, the pilot, the Jinai female we're looking at here, she always had some protrusion. A shoulder protrusion, head forward in a jut protrusion, chest forward, or lip pucker. The lips were jutting forward. There's all these projection points, and even when she would lean back in the chair, she would lean back, but she would still have her shoulders forward, pitched in a forward position.
Right.
So it was interesting how she did, because it was smooth and feminine. She sort of shifted where the projection was at smoothly, so it didn't seem as maybe taking over the environment as it actually is.
Didn't seem as
Yeah, it was more distributed rather than lopsided.
Exactly, or just sort of distributed as opposed to in your face. She actually had a lot of projection energy, but was kind of moving it around, so it didn't seem it was just smashing on you. Interesting.
more rounded.
More rounded.
Okay. As a Nishai, I can relate to her objective side extremely well. I can even relate to her directive side when I am in modulation Z. But unless I am in a modulation state, I cannot fully relate to what it is like to be both objective and directive when both of those happen to be completely in momentum, as it is for pilots. However, as an Abram, I can certainly relate to a lot of her general gesturing style, and I often really admire the Jinai vantage point. Those are the people who inspire and encourage me to get on the karaoke stage and to rock the house down. When I think of Jinai, and even of the few Jinai women in the 10K, as well as people in my life who may very well be Jinai, although not confirmed, obviously, I am able to be inspired and impassioned to go out and make a difference in the world. When I heard Elisa Diaz's interview, that was completely the impression that I received. She does not do a lot of pulling punches, although she can at times allow her Zai to rein her in just a bit so that her presence is not overtly one side without some yin energy to fill in the gaps. And I can tell that if she has something to say, she will do it in a way that is impactful, direct, and authentic. Let me stop here.
Yeah, one thing that just came to my mind is more of a demographics thing, is that definitely there's some cultural influence on this, because there is, in the virtual village we have now, on the Jinai females, there is a weighting towards black females. So
Yeah.
there's more acceptance, I think, of maybe perhaps
That's strong.
that in the culture, or other people accepting that as a stereotype of that culture, probably a combination of the two. And then when you talk about Jivai, there's like very few, not very few, but like there's noticeably fewer represented in there that are not actually African American. Most of the Jivai we have
A lot of them in the
Soul Singers,
Right.
also a few models, there's a few of them, but there's there definitely is an ethnic or cultural thing going there because there's no difference in the actual like birthing rates,
Yeah.
not to our knowledge. So that actually strictly either a combination of what is considered to be feminine, strong feminine in a certain culture, or what other cultures have as like, oh, that's a stereotype of a woman from that culture. Anyway, it's interesting to know.
Yeah.
So, does anything have anything on that? What he's talking about?
Let me think. No, I don't. No, nothing in terms of the demographics or anything like that.
Oh no, that's fine. But I was actually asking if anyone else had anything to say about.
Well, if anyone else, I'm sorry.
I think we may have covered some of that ground previously.
Yeah.
You'll go ahead and continue
Okay.
on.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. I also, even before I heard Coach's cue on this, noted some very clear exhalations and heavy breathing as she was speaking her Ji. It almost had a fire-breathing dragon kind of quality, but obviously Naiji certainly know how to be fire-breathing dragons themselves as well, beyond a doubt. And I could tell in a heartbeat that this certainly was not shy. Her heavy breaths were clear in the exerting exhale, not in the resonating inhale. And I could tell in a heartbeat that this was certainly not. So her articulation and breathing patterns smacked of G alpha. Overall, it was quite enjoyable to watch another Abram do her thing and to note the inherent differences between the way that she Abrams and the way that I Abram. A very nice interview to watch, and once again, an outstanding vlog that brought even greater clarity to my understandings of Jinai, and most uniquely, a Jinai female.
Indeed, they're rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That was a great point about like the exhalations and that they go outward and the focus is on that. You feel the energy on that as opposed to the inward exhalations from like that you would have with like resonators that have the people that have the resonator as their momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. One thing I noted, it was subtle, but maybe some of you all picked up as well, is the difference between, say, a Naiji and Jinai on the exhalations and inhalations is that it's percussive, both of them being directive, but when she starts sort of breathing, there's like a it just sort of like goes up, you know, like Avery Brooks, like he just starts breathing and there's like a nice full rumble to it as the air just goes into the words. With Naiji, there's like a little bit more of the air going forward before it starts becoming words. A little bit more like going through a trumpet or something, and so it is a bit more percussive, but a bit more penetrating.
Yeah.
It's more
piercing.
Piercing. It's a bit more piercing than the pilot's version of it, and it's another thing I think makes it more reassuring.
Yeah, because it has a more rounded, like the consistent, like hum.
Yeah, there's a slight pause in getting it out with the Naiji as you go into the word.
Yeah.
Slightly labored, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it adds to the gravitas that hunters can.
It does. It makes it sound.
Yes.
Like
the upside is true. That's a good
like
point.
You're saying something like that's
serious.
Serious and.
But that seriousness.
Really you need to pay attention to. You know?
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's true, but it makes it a little less reassuring. So, hunters, it naturally sounds like this is urgent, but not like let's go here, tribe. You know what I mean? That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you could as a hunter, kind of, make it kind of more like that. But it's like
totally.
Naturally, it's more as more of a kind of a urgency to it.
It does, and a good point there is you can, like as a Naiji, I can smoothen it by adding some Zai there, and that will make it more smooth and so forth, but it also dips the energy some. I can make my voice more reassuring, but to make my voice more reassuring like that, it does take more Zai. They can do that without having to modulate it at all, which is pretty boss. But then, I notice a difference on the other side is the intake. For those of us here, the Naiji, who have Ji and Zai, there is a intake of air we do sometimes with Zai, as you're like taking in like a hard point, almost like someone like hit a hard tennis serve at you, and you're going to like catch it, you're going to check it and send it back. It's like, you know what I mean? Or you're lifting away. or like you're being punched, and there's like a, you know what I mean? Clint Eastwood being classic on that.
Yeah,
It's-
where the
But the
skinning of
exactly skin the teeth, sucking in the air there. But it's not so much with emotiveness. It's more like a often like a visceral effort or being like impacted in that way. Anyway, the Jinai have a variation of it because they have the same 4 powers, the same compounds. But the Naiji intake of air is a little smoother. Interesting, they're smooth on articulation, but our inhalation of like sort of taking impact, we get rattled less because our tower is a notch higher. I noticed, like I've heard other Jinai, the startup to the articulation is very smooth, easy, back and forth, but then when she would pause, her pauses into resonating were a little more awkward. It's sort of like, G, oh, almost like, oh yeah. Like her Zai had more of a surprise quality. Like when Naiji get hit in a way that would cause a Durham to go, hit registered. You know what I mean? We don't like it, you know, when it happens, it's modulation, but it's offside modulation, so we're a little more like, okay, restrain yourself. When Jinai get a Zai signal that, oh, you should restrain yourself, either from internally or the other person says something that makes the Zai go, oh, you may have said something bad or you may have gotten too worked up. There is sort of like a dog who is totally off their leash, and all of a sudden the Zai's like, they sharper intake of air, and I've noticed they have a general, like, a bit more of a surprised expression on their face, and like more like someone tripped them. Naiji look more like an annoying timeout needs to be taken, but it's not as surprising and not quite as jarring.
Right.
But then the Jinai have a much more smooth articulation and ease of getting into the air and coming in and out of flight.
Smoother cruising at.
Much smoother cruising, indeed. Anything else? Anyone? All right, cool. Infinity, go ahead and finish up here. Is this where you do some time coding?
Yes. No. First, I have questions. I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
Questions based on cues.
I believe one of the questions you asked about was it actually a time coding thing, and I said yes, it is.
Right.
Do you want to read out? Go ahead. So I read that one out, and then we'll do the other one.
Okay. Let me spot it. Oh yeah. Okay. So this one that you're talking about here is at 8 seconds, and okay. So what you're saying is that she nods along in affirmative warmth, applying G, but without looking away immediately after. Without looking away immediately after, like Jez hunters. And I gave the cue a 6, and here's what I wrote. I'm somewhat confused about how this cue actually manifests itself here. The first thing is, as she nods once, she's actually not facing the interviewer. To me, she is looking a bit away from the interviewer as she nods as she enters a 1,000-yard stare, as she channels inward into her thoughts. I totally get that a Jinai, as an objective G alpha, would be more likely to make straight-on eye contact with the other person while nodding in affirmation. While I understand that her single nod could be very much affirmatory, I still notice that the eye contact wasn't direct. So then I ask a clarification. Here's a clarification question. Is it possible that this cue that you were showing me is all in the moments prior to 8 seconds, while she was hearing the question asked from the interviewer and is making little nods? In that case, all makes sense, and the cue rating jumps to a 9/10. I'm curious when the cue actually shows up.
Yeah. It is the gentle nodding she's doing as the other person is
That's what I
speaking.
thought.
Yeah, totally. But that's a good question.
Yeah, because it clearly looks like when she does the single nod, she's looking away, but that's right at 8 seconds versus the prior to 8 seconds. So it's clear. It's all clear.
Cool. But there's a second one we could talk about.
Second one, 6 seconds. Okay, and you mentioned she's in momentum. The head is tilted to the left, head jutted forward, unhooded yet cunning. G smile. And the only thing that I had the confusion on was on the eyes, because you mentioned that it's cunning, and to me the eyes are pretty wide. To me it looks like gatherer eyes almost, either V or knee. Okay. And so, yeah.
Great question. I'm going to let Jilene take lead on that. The upper alley to Gene I.
Well, the direction I'm going to go is that they've they were had V.
They have more V in it?
Because the double barreling with the she and V. So when they get animated, you'll see at times their eyes will get more pricked up. Yeah, with the V.
Okay.
So at times they can look
more shiny.
Yeah, more shiny as opposed to the cunning hunter eyes. Yeah, far away, piercing.
The other thing is, you may have gotten used to the term cunning being associated with Nye in its source form.
Yes.
Okay,
Naturally.
so the more time you spend with the NES pilots, the Xenai and the Xenai, you'll see cunning in a different way. For one thing, there's a dreamy watcher quality to the Nye of both the Nye Alpha. The
Right.
NES pilots, it's different. They have much more a cunningness while in real-time engagement.
Yes.
So
Totally.
the cunning